The moment they see you again, the game starts before a single word is spoken. Not because they missed you, because they need to know one thing instantly. Do they still have access to you? And what they do next is so fast, so subtle, most people never notice it. A look, a pause, a smile, a cold stare. But every move has one purpose: to measure whether the old version of you still exists. Think about this carefully. Have you ever met someone from your past and felt like something invisible was happening beneath the conversation? Like they were watching more than listening, testing more than talking? If you have, stay with me. Because once you understand this pattern, you will never see that encounter the same way again. The moment you see them again, everything you believed was finished suddenly feels unfinished. At least not for them, because to a narcissist, no contact is not closure, it is a challenge. The second they look at you again, something highly calculated begins immediately, something many people never notice. If you have ever gone through this kind of meeting, stop for a moment and think carefully. Did their behavior feel natural, or did it feel planned? Did something seem slightly off, even if you could not explain it? Many people sense it but ignore it. Trust that feeling, because these encounters often carry hidden motives beneath the surface that only become clear later. At the center of narcissistic behavior is a deep and often hidden need for control and validation. These are not simple wants for them. They are emotional necessities. Control allows them to shape how other people view them, how events unfold, and most importantly, how they feel inside. Validation becomes the fuel that keeps their fragile self-image alive. Without praise, attention, admiration, or emotional reactions from others, they begin to feel weak, unstable, and exposed. This is why relationships with narcissistic people often feel exhausting. The focus is rarely on mutual care or healthy connection. The focus is usually on protecting their image and securing a constant stream of emotional supply from the people around them. When you choose no contact, you are doing much more than ending communication. You are cutting off access to the supply they once depended on. You remove your attention, your emotions, your responses, and your presence. That absence creates discomfort inside them because they can no longer reach you in the same way. It creates a psychological emptiness where their usual methods stop working. They can no longer pull reactions from you or use your attention to feel important. Because of this, your silence does not feel neutral to them. It feels like a loss of power, a loss of influence, and a loss of certainty about the role they once held in your life. What makes no contact even more powerful is that it is one of the few things they cannot easily control. When communication stays open, they can twist words, shift blame, rewrite history, and guide the story in a direction that protects them. But when you are absent, that advantage becomes weaker. They cannot easily reach into your mind or emotions. They cannot predict your reactions as before. This is why, even after time has passed, seeing you again can feel intense and strangely charged. To them, it is not just a random meeting. It can feel like a sudden chance to test whether their old power still exists. The moment a narcissist sees you again after a long period of no contact, their ego often activates immediately. This usually happens automatically, almost like a reflex. Their identity is often built on comparison, superiority, and the reactions they can create in others. So when they meet someone who once knew them closely, especially someone who walked away, it can trigger an instant internal question. Where do I stand now in their eyes? That single question can create a silent storm inside them. They may look calm on the outside, but inside they are already measuring the situation and deciding what it means for their self-image. For them, your presence can represent unfinished business, not emotional closure, but a break in the image they prefer to protect. They want to believe they are always in control, always desired, always unforgettable, and never the one left behind. Even if they caused the breakup or distance, your decision to go no contact changes the story. It proves that you could step away. It proves that you could detach. It proves that your world could continue without them at the center. That possibility directly challenges the version of themselves they try so hard to maintain, and that challenge often creates immediate internal tension. This is why their reaction may feel so fast and intense, even when it looks subtle from the outside. In those first moments, they are often scanning everything about you. Your expression, your confidence, your energy, your body language, your emotional state. Do you seem stronger now? Do you look happier? Do you appear calm and unaffected? Or do you still look uncertain, emotional, and reactive? Every signal matters to them because each one feeds their ego differently. If you appear healed and unbothered, it may wound their sense of importance. If you appear shaken, it may restore their sense of influence over you. What matters most to understand is that this reaction is usually not about genuine care or deep curiosity. It is often about self-protection. Their ego depends on holding a certain position in your mind, and seeing you again creates uncertainty around that position. They do not always know whether they still matter to you, whether they still affect you, or whether they have been fully replaced by your growth and peace. That uncertainty can be deeply uncomfortable for them. So what happens next is often driven by the need to reduce that discomfort as quickly as possible. Sometimes they respond with charm. They may smile warmly, speak gently, or act as if nothing bad ever happened. This can confuse people because it may look like maturity or kindness. But charm in these moments can also be a strategy. If they can make you warm up quickly, they learn that access may still be possible. They learn that old emotional doors may still open. It becomes less about rebuilding trust and more about testing whether their influence still works. Even a small positive reaction from you can feel like proof that their power was never fully lost. Other times they respond with coldness or distance. They may barely acknowledge you, act distracted, or speak with dismissive energy. This can feel painful because it may seem like you never mattered. But in many cases, this indifference is not genuine. It can be carefully performed. The message beneath it is simple: you do not affect me anymore. By appearing untouched, they try to protect themselves from feeling exposed. If they show too much emotion too quickly, it reveals that your presence still matters. For someone who fears losing control, that kind of honesty can feel dangerous. This is why indifference can be one of the most confusing parts of the encounter. Many people assume no reaction means no feeling, but with narcissistic dynamics, no reaction can still be a reaction. Silence can be strategic, distance can be defensive, dismissiveness can be an attempt to regain the upper hand. The outside behavior does not always match the inner experience. They may look calm while feeling challenged. They may look bored while studying your every move. They may look detached while silently trying to understand whether you are still emotionally reachable. In some cases, they may test boundaries in subtle ways. A casual question, a small compliment, a joke only the two of you would understand, a glance held slightly too long. These moments can seem harmless, but they may be designed to measure your openness. Are you still emotionally available? Do old patterns still exist? Can they still create confusion, warmth, guilt, or longing inside you? Every response gives them information. This is why staying aware during these interactions matters so much. What feels small on the surface can carry much deeper intentions underneath. If you remain calm, respectful, and emotionally steady, the dynamic begins to shift. They may realize the old version of you is no longer there. The person who once reacted instantly, explained endlessly, or sought their approval may be gone. That realization can be powerful because it forces them to face something they often avoid: change they cannot control. Your peace becomes evidence that healing happened without their permission. Your calm becomes proof that their influence has limits. And your boundaries become a mirror reflecting what no longer works. Many people think the most important part of seeing them again is what they say or do. Often, the more important part is what you understand. Once you recognize that their behavior may be driven by ego, control, validation, and self-protection, it becomes easier not to personalize every gesture. Their coldness does not always mean you were worthless. Their charm does not always mean they changed. Their attention does not always mean love. Sometimes it simply means your independence created a reaction they did not expect. The real power in these moments is not in winning the interaction. It is in seeing it clearly. It is in staying connected to your own growth instead of being pulled back into old confusion. It is in remembering why no contact mattered in the first place. You did not step away to create a game. You stepped away to protect your peace, rebuild your clarity, and reclaim your emotional energy. If seeing them again tests that progress, it can also reveal how far you have come. This is where many people misunderstand what is really happening. You may assume their calm behavior means closure, or that they have truly healed, matured, or changed. But in many cases, something more strategic is happening beneath the surface. They are managing the image they present to you. They want to study your reaction while keeping their own hidden. That gives them an advantage. It allows them to stay in control of the interaction while quietly collecting information about where you stand emotionally. To you, it may look like peace or confidence. To them, it may simply be a method of protecting ego while observing the situation carefully and silently from a position that feels safer. What makes this even more confusing is how quickly that indifference can change. If they notice that you seem affected by their distance, they may continue acting cold because it strengthens their feeling of superiority. It tells them they can still move your emotions without doing very much. But if they sense that you are truly detached, that their distance is not creating any reaction at all, they may suddenly switch directions. This is often when charm, friendliness, curiosity, or subtle attempts to reconnect appear out of nowhere. The same person who seemed distant a moment ago may suddenly become warm and engaging because the previous tactic failed to get the result they wanted. The purpose of hoovering is usually not genuine reconnection. It is about re-establishing access. When you went no contact, you stepped outside their reach. You removed yourself from a pattern they once relied on. That creates a gap they often feel driven to close. Seeing you again becomes an unexpected chance to test whether that door is still shut or whether it can be opened again. They do not always need a dramatic response. A small opening can be enough. A reply, a smile, a moment of warmth, or a little emotional engagement can signal that connection is still possible and worth pursuing further. The real power in these moments is not in proving anything to them. It is in recognizing what is happening before you get pulled into it. Silence, distance, and consistency are often what keep that door truly closed. You do not owe anyone access simply because they appear pleasant in one moment. You do not need to explain your boundaries for them to remain valid. Sometimes the strongest response is the calmest one. Sometimes protecting your peace looks ordinary from the outside, but internally, it is one of the biggest changes you can make after a harmful dynamic has ended. When a narcissist sees you after no contact, one of the first things they often do, sometimes without you realizing it, is scan you for emotional reactions. This can happen quickly and almost instinctively. They are not only looking at you, they are studying you. Your facial expression, your tone of voice, the way you stand, the energy you carry, and even the smallest shift in your body language can become useful information to them. Because in this kind of dynamic, your reaction is not just a response. It is a signal of how much influence they may still have in your world. Your growth after no contact creates a quiet disruption for a narcissist because it challenges the internal story they have built about themselves. Many narcissistic people hold a private narrative where they are superior, in control, and more important than the people around them. In that story, others are replaceable, dependent, or somehow less aware. Their identity often depends on keeping that version of reality alive. But when you step away, heal, and begin rebuilding your life without them, you silently contradict the story they depend on. You become evidence that their version of events was incomplete, and that kind of contradiction can be deeply uncomfortable for them to face. Your strength is not found in what they do when they see you. It is found in what they can no longer get from you when they do. It is found in the calm they cannot disturb, the clarity they cannot confuse, and the boundaries they cannot quietly erase. It is found in the version of you that learned from the past without being trapped by it. When you carry that version of yourself into the encounter, the meeting becomes more than a test of old patterns. It becomes proof that you have changed in the ways that matter most. In the end, seeing them again is not really about them. It is about how far you have come. What once confused you can now become clear. What once pulled you in can now pass by without changing your peace. Their behavior may look different on the surface, but the real power of the moment is found in your response. When you stay calm, grounded, and aware, old patterns lose their effect. No contact was never only about creating distance. It was about creating freedom, clarity, and emotional strength. And when you carry that growth with you, the encounter becomes a reminder that your peace no longer depends on their presence, their words, or their actions.